Of all the achievements in Stardew Valley, completing Journey of the Prairie King is by far one of the most difficult. I even had less trouble completing Junimo Kart, and that was no small feat, let me tell you. I was, however, determined not to let this game get the better of me, so I swallowed my fears and dedicated myself to beating Prairie King. A mere 12 hours later, I had gone from dying a lot in the first level to defeating the final boss. In this video, I will demonstrate my winning run whilst providing you with the various tips and tricks I picked up whilst playing that helped me to beat the game. Stage 1 of the game has 4 areas followed by a boss. Despite being the easiest stage of the game, do not underestimate the difficulty of the enemies, especially when you start playing for the first time. What would have helped me when starting out is understanding the different power-ups, the purpose of coins, various tactics, and what to expect. Thankfully, I've suffered, so you don't have to. Well, you will suffer playing this, but not as much as I did. At the top of the screen there's a timer that goes down. When the timer reaches the end, no more enemies will spawn, however you still have to defeat all the enemies on the screen. If you die, that timer goes up again by a small amount, meaning more enemies will spawn and it will take longer to complete the level. But believe it or not, there are times when dying to increase the timer is a tactic you can use to get more drops and coins. The first enemy you're going to have to tackle here are orcs. Orcs have 1 HP and die in one shot, but don't get complacent in that knowledge. They will also spawn in large numbers, so you can get overwhelmed pretty quickly. When I began playing the game, I was looking for tactics that could help me get beyond the levels more easily. One method I found that worked really well for me in the early levels was choosing a corner I felt most comfortable with, that was the top left for me, and stayed there, taking out enemies from my sniping vantage point. Although a solid tactic that will definitely get you moving up the levels, it's not sustainable as you will miss vital drops and coins. It's a good safe retreat method, however, when you're feeling overwhelmed, and I still found myself going back there now and then when I needed to reset. Much like Junimo Kart, luck plays a huge role in Prairie King. I'm not talking about your daily luck or luck rings, but just random blind luck. Of course, there's a huge level of skill involved, but the rate at which the enemies come out, where they come out from, the items that they drop, are all random, and some playthroughs are easier than others because the game just happens to be working in your favour that time around. In this particular run, I found the game was very much in my favour. From the get-go, I noticed I was getting extra lives, lots of coins, and special weapons. To put this in perspective, I've had other runs where the enemies have only dropped 2 coins and a couple of weapons in the first area. The first special power I've picked up here that looks like a bolt of lightning is actually a tombstone. It has the power to put you in a zombie-like state. You become invincible to enemies killing you, except bosses, and the enemies run away from you scared. It's very similar to Pac-Man, when you eat a power pellet and can then consume the ghosts. If you touch the enemies when in zombie mode, they die instantly. This power-up lasts for about 8 seconds. The next drop, that looks like a tombstone, is actually a nuclear bomb and will clear the screen of enemies. It's important to note that you can only hold one power-up at a time. If you are holding one already, then the next one you pick up gets used immediately. The third drop you see is the Sheriff Badge. In early levels, the Sheriff Badge is really powerful. It shoots out 3 bullets at a time, with an increased rate of fire that lets you move faster. The next drop is an extra life. Already in this first level, you've witnessed 5 coin drops, 3 special items, and a life. By the end of this first area, I've managed to get 9 coins, which is far more than usual. The last power up you see there is a smoke bomb. This will teleport you to a random location on the map and confuse all the enemies, making them stand still for about 4 seconds. Area 2 introduces the spike ball enemy. Used well, this enemy can actually help you out by hindering the orcs. The spike balls have 2 HP, but once they deploy into an armoured spike ball, that increases to 7 HP. Here's another drop, Coffee. Coffee will increase your movement speed for about 16 seconds. It's very useful for getting out of a tight spot when you have a bunch of enemies closing in on you. You can see I now activated the sheriff badge, so enemies beware. With the increase in movement speed and rate of fire, I have more confidence to move around the centre, hoping to collect any coins or drops. But I also retreat back to my safety point at the top left corner. I pick up another life, taking my total to 5, and it's only the second area. I am utterly convinced that this game wants me to win. And now we have another drop, and possibly my favourite one, especially when it's stacked with the sheriff badge. This is the wagon wheel. It allows the player to shoot in 8 directions and lasts for about 12 seconds. And there it is in action. You'll have noticed that the game dropped me another 2 lives and a further power up, the shotgun. The shotgun fires 3 bullets at once in a cone, but at a slower rate. It also lasts for about 12 seconds and can be stacked with power-ups like the wagon wheel. I'm now up to 8 lives and it's still only the second area. I've never had such good luck in this game before. At the end of every second area, you will have the opportunity to spend coins you've collected on upgrades. I wish I knew what these upgrades were before I bought them for the first time. Thankfully, now I do, so I can tell you. The boots will get you moving quicker. The gun increases your rate of fire. And the box of bullets increases your damage. Note that you can only buy 1 item from the vendor, even if you have the money to spare. So choose wisely. There's different ways to go about doing this, but in my opinion I would recommend saving 15 coins and buying the bullets. I've only had a few previous attempts where I've got 15 coins by this point already and can afford the bullets. It's very rare. My luck has been astonishing this time around and I'm taking my bullets. In Area 3, we get another new enemy, the Ogre. Ogres have 3 HP, so it's great that they move so slowly. The stronger bullets are already going to be a huge advantage as they will help kill ogres quicker. Now that I've spent all my coins, I'll be looking to get at least 10 coins by the end of the next area so that I can buy the gun with the increased rate of fire. I made a mistake here by picking up the nuclear bomb without first burning up my smoke bomb. The nuclear bomb is far more useful and I should have kept it for later. I learned that lesson quickly and made sure I used it before picking up the shotgun, which I want to save for when the waves of enemies get more intense. I tend to stick to the top left, as usual, and dispatch the enemies before they get close. At this point, let's just take a moment to appreciate how much of a bop the music to Prairie King is. Many times when I wanted to quit, this soundtrack kept me going on. Anyway, here come the bad guys. It's time to pew pew. It helps with the shotgun and the sheriff badge, and so it's not long before we get to the final area in stage 1. What I like about Area 4 is this box in the centre. It's a great place for enemies to get trapped. On the flip side though, if you kill enemies in there, you have to get inside to pick up the drops. Here is our first 5 coin. I kept calling it a super coin because the 5 looks like an S, and here's my first death in the game. Note the timer on the top increasing again. This is because I got too complacent, trying to get a drop right near the enemy spawn point. If you are picking up a drop near the enemy spawn point, make sure you aim into it and keep firing to increase your chances of killing the enemy before they kill you. Having 8 lives, it wasn't a great loss, and very soon after I got another life. I also got a couple of power-ups in succession. Despite knowing the game well and being somewhat confident in these early levels, I still keep heading back to that top left corner. I made my way down to the bottom left corner and really struggled. It shouldn't be any different, but it just felt so much more difficult for me. The timer's run out now, so I have to defeat the remaining enemies. However, I very foolishly die. And now you see that the timer still increases and more enemies can spawn. You'll also note, however, that more coins get dropped by these new enemies, and it's actually a great tactic to use if you need money to buy something from the shop but don't have enough. If you have lives to spare, sacrificing yourself so that you can kill more enemies can actually work in your favour, but it's not guaranteed. I do now have enough money to buy my gun and will put it to good use against the first boss. The stage 1 boss is probably the easiest part of this entire game. There's a little knack to defeating him quickly. If you stand in just the right place and fire, they won't hit you, but you can hit them easily. You'll know when you get to the right place because the bullets kind of go through the boss's barrier. It doesn't always work, but more often than not it will. Usually, I'd say this could be considered cheesing the boss, or a hack. But honestly, even without it, the boss is so easy to kill, all you're doing is saving your own time. If the music in the levels are a bop, the boss music slaps hard. When you finally defeat the boss, remember to collect the extra life before you continue to the next level. I made that mistake once, and I'll never make it again. Stage 2 has 3 areas followed by a boss. We are also introduced to some new enemies, the super fast mushroom and the evil butterfly. The ogre we met in stage 1 also comes along for the ride. The butterflies have only 1 HP, but they can spawn from anywhere and fly right over obstacles, so you have to really watch out for them. In this level, I found my best spot to be in the top right, hidden between 2 bushes. The advantage of this place is that ground enemies can only approach you from one direction, but you still have to be super vigilant for butterflies who can creep up from behind. As soon as I get a power up, however, I venture out into the centre more confidently. Here you see I use a teleport followed by a nuclear bomb. I really shouldn't have wasted a bomb like that at that moment. I'm still making foolish mistakes, and it's a miracle I beat this game at all. I've now got my life count into double figures, but not for long, as my impatience cost me when I tried to venture out too soon. I should have waited a bit longer. As a result, the timer increased, but it wasn't all bad. I managed to get a power up for the next level and my extra life back. This time from the vendor I'm going to buy the boots. This is going to help me outrun the mushrooms in the next area. In area 2 there's a nifty little hiding spot I like to use in the top left. Again, it protects me from behind and below, meaning I only need to focus on defeating enemies coming head on. However, I do still need to watch out for butterflies. Using the wagon wheel, I'm able to move out into the centre and pick up some valuable drops. My aim is to now try to get 30 coins so I can purchase the next bullet upgrade, which will be necessary for the final stage of the game. The mushrooms have 2 HP, but with the stronger bullets and increased fire rate, they aren't difficult to beat one at a time. If they swarm, it gets far trickier. They are as fast as you when you don't have any speed boosts or upgraded boots, so outrunning them is rough. I had a really close call there with a butterfly behind me. Thankfully I saw it in time. At this point I'm feeling quite confident that all my deaths have been due to my stupidity rather than because I found things difficult. That's all going to change pretty soon. Another close call with a butterfly, but it leads to the final power-up we haven't seen yet, the heavy machine gun. This one gives a massive fire rate increase and lasts for 12 seconds. Stack it with the wagon wheel and shotgun for WMD level destruction. Area 3 of Stage 2 is one of the most difficult areas in the game. I've gotten to this point before without dying, but avoiding death here is very difficult. By this run I actually found the best place to stand to win, but I had to die so many times to learn that. In this area there are 3 sections connected by bridges. In the bottom and top, enemies can cross the bridge to reach you, but otherwise only enter from the single spawn point. Except for butterflies of course, which can spawn on any edge. In the center section you have to contend with 2 sets of bridges and spawn points to the left and right. It's basically a death pit and you do not want to stay in there for long. You'll also notice in the middle section there's a bush on either side of the top, meaning that if you're on the top part, ground enemies have to travel a bit further to get to you. For this reason I prefer to stay at the top. I later found the best place to stand is by one of the bridges off to the side. As usual, I favour the left. You'll start to see the enemies spawn very quickly and in large numbers. The bridges help to slow them down, and standing in a space where you can monitor all the bridges but also be far enough from the edge will give you a greater chance of survival. I wanted to get 30 coins for the stronger bullets, but I decided that additional fire rate upgrade would also help in destroying enemies more quickly, so I took that, hoping I'll be able to get 30 coins before the final boss. And given the luck I was having, it was likely to happen. The Stage 2 boss is pretty much exactly the same as the Stage 1 boss, the only difference being that you have less cover to stand behind. The cheese tactic mentioned previously will still work here, so you can make quick work of this boss before moving on. Again, remember to collect your extra life first and then go to the next stage. Well, you've made it to Stage 3. And let me tell you that when you get here for the first time, you're going to wish for the ease of those Stage 2 butterflies again. Stage 3 has 3 areas followed by a boss unlike any you've seen before. The enemies in Stage 3 are also wildly more difficult and numerous. We now get mummies and the flying imp. The enemies from the previous stages do not appear here. The mummies have 6 HP, and although they move slowly, they attack in huge numbers, so much like a zombie apocalypse, it's easy to get overwhelmed by them. The imps have 3 HP and they fly in, specifically aiming for you. They are fast and often spawn in multiple places at once. So good luck with that. I find in this area it's best to move around the centre. The gravestones provide a decent level of cover from the mummies, but if you don't have stronger bullets by this point, it's near impossible. My death here was completely avoidable. I forgot to keep away from the edges. The speed at which the imps come at you is no joke, and you barely have a chance to react if you're at the edge and they spawn beside you. As a result of that mistake, I lost the heavy machine gun I had just activated. Thankfully, I died only once in this round, but I didn't get enough coins to buy anything. You will notice by now that the mummies can stop the imps, so in some ways, if you let the mummies swarm a little bit, it can be advantageous as they will hold the imps back, but be careful not to let them swarm too much. Again, I stayed too close to the edge and it cost me. I'm so glad I saved that tombstone as it saved me in that moment. Even with the faster boots, the imps are hard to get away from and I would have died for sure had I not activated it at that moment. I was so happy to get the wagon wheel, but I didn't see that one mummy creep up on me and slip between my bullets. Of all my deaths, this is the one that upset me the most. I still had 9 lives though, so it wasn't too terrible. The Sheriff badge in Stage 3 is an absolute lifesaver. Once I have it, I'm so much more confident. It was then followed by a wagon wheel and Sheriff badge combo, which is top tier despite being the biggest mistake I could have made. Activating that when I did, right at the end of the level, was so silly. I should have waited until the next area to really maximize its effectiveness. Thankfully, it lasts for a long time, so I was able to gain some benefit from it. Forget this area. This whole level can go straight in the bin. It's demonic, and that's an understatement. You have nowhere to hide and the imps are relentless. By this point in the game, if you want to survive, you either need a lot of good fortune and power-ups, or start seeing the world in code, much like Keanu Reeves in The Matrix. Your reflexes have to be on point to avoid the waves of enemies. In short, you will likely die. Many times. But don't let that get you down. Take that anger and use it to fuel your vengeance, much like Keanu Reeves in John Wick. Okay, enough with the Keanu Reeves references. Thankfully, I had the previous power-up still active and it gave me a decent starting point for the level. You have no choice here but to move around and move quickly. As you can see, I'm having to dodge wildly to avoid dying constantly. You kind of just need to achieve a level of clarity and zen out to the game. Even though I died as the timer got to halfway, I was still so proud of my progress. Usually I'd have died many times by this point. Furthermore, I'd collected enough coins now to buy the better bullets at the end of this area. As you can see how the imps spawn, escape is very rare. I was clearly not in a state of zen. After another death, I finally get a sheriff badge and I am able to turn the tables on the enemy. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to obtain any power-ups to take with me to face the final boss. However, I was able to purchase more powerful bullets and I had 8 lives. This was honestly the best position I had ever been in to win the game. The fact that this boss differs so wildly from the previous cowboy bosses is just cruel. This boss actually has a name, Fector. He can shoot in 8 directions pretty quickly and has friends to help him, which makes things even more difficult. I wish I could tell you the tactic for how to beat him, but unfortunately I'm as lost as you are. I didn't know how to avoid his bullets at all. Every time I tried, I died. My only saving grace was that after death you gain a few seconds of invincibility. Using that and powerful bullets, I was able to do enough damage to Fector before losing all my lives. It was literally a battle between my 8 lives versus his 1. I was so lucky that a few times Fector chose not to attack, which meant I was able to heavily damage him uninterrupted. I'm not sure why he did that, other than he wanted me to win. It's almost as if he chose me to be the Prairie King, as though it was finally my time. Despite fate being on my side and having 8 lives, I finally beat Fector with 1 life remaining. I cannot explain to you how fast my heart was beating at this point. To say I was ecstatic would be an understatement. At the end of the game, we collect the heart and give it to our prairie true love. Once you complete the game, you can play it on a harder difficulty. Yeah, no thanks, we're done now. Okay, let's just take a look. For research purposes. I really hope this video either inspires you to try Journey of the Prairie King, helps you in beating it, or scares you away entirely. If you've beaten the game and have any additional advice or tips, please put them in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Pew pew! Die!